Imagine a single line of bad code just crashing a government loan portal, costing millions of dollars and ruining a brand's reputation overnight. Well, today, your mission is to prevent exactly that from happening.
Yeah, the stakes are incredibly high in the real world.
Welcome to our deliberate, unhurried deep dive. You are prepping for the Certified Tester Advanced Level Test Analyst version 4.0 exam, and we are going to carefully analyze 5 specific practice questions to help you secure that certification.
Right, and we're taking it at a measured pace today. We're going to dig into the underlying logic behind each of these scenarios, because this isn't just about memorizing the right letters.
Right, it's about real application. Let's start right at the source of a potential disaster. Question 1. Which activity best represents the test analyst leveraging defect reports to improve the overall software development process?
The correct answer is B. Tracing errors back to ambiguous requirements prevents future issues, which, supports continuous process improvement.
But wait, isn't a test analyst's job just to find the bug in the software and throw it back over the fence to the developers?
Well, no, because fixing the code only cures the symptom. Fixing the ambiguous requirement cures the disease.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, if you figure out exactly why the developer misunderstood the assignment initially, you stop that exact same miscommunication from infecting the next 3 projects.
Okay, so you are basically using past defects to engineer a stronger foundation. But let's say a bug does slip through anyway. Question 2. During the risk analysis phase, how should a test analyst evaluate the potential business impact of a newly identified product risk?
The correct answer is A. Financial loss and brand reputation damage define the severity of a product risk.
I feel like engineers often get tunnel vision here, right? Like a bug that crashes some obscure settings menu is technically a software failure.
Oh, absolutely.
But it doesn't matter nearly as much as a calculation error right in the middle of a checkout cart.
Precisely. Assessing risk is a business exercise, not just a technical one. You have to look at the failure and ask, if this breaks in production, do we lose $10 or $10 million?
Right. Or does our CEO end up apologizing on the evening news?
Exactly. That financial and reputational severity dictates exactly where you need to focus your testing firepower.
Okay, so a failure in our loan approval module costs millions, but we can't test every single possible loan amount a user might enter. That is physically impossible.
Yeah, you'd be there forever.
Testing software is basically like tasting a pot of soup. You only need 1 spoonful to know if it's salty. You don't need to drink the whole pot. Let's see how that applies here. Question 3. When applying equivalence partitioning to a financial application that processes loan approvals, which approach ensures the highest level of coverage with the fewest test cases?
The correct answer is C. Selecting one representative value from valid and invalid brackets provides efficient coverage.
Let's look at the mathematical mechanism here. Why does that soup analogy actually work in software?
Well, because the underlying code uses the exact same logic path for an input of $5,000 as it does for $6,000.
Oh, right. It just treats them the same.
Exactly. If the business rule says approve loans under $10,000, testing both $5,000 and $6,000 is completely redundant. You are essentially hacking the system's logic to save time.
So by taking just 1 sample from each bracket, you get maximum coverage with a fraction of the test cases.
Right. It's all about data efficiency.
But software isn't just data, right? It's used by human beings.
Huh.
And if this is a public portal, the stakes change entirely. Question 4. What is the primary focus of an accessibility testing strategy when evaluating a public government portal?
The correct answer is D. The necessity of screen reader compatibility for equal access.
For an advanced test analyst, knowing that blind users rely on screen readers is fairly basic.
Right, it is.
The real challenge must be how you integrate that into the broader strategic framework.
Exactly. A public government portal isn't a luxury, it is a necessity. The primary strategic focus is guaranteeing that users with visual impairments have the exact same level of access to essential services.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah, if your underlying HTML isn't meticulously structured so a screen reader can logically interpret the navigation, the portal is effectively broken for a massive portion of the population.
Wow. Okay, so we have financial risk severity, logic paths, and accessibility standards all running simultaneously. How do we keep track? Question 5. What is the primary benefit of maintaining complete traceability linking business requirements directly to test cases throughout the project lifecycle?
The correct answer is B. Traceability quickly identifies impacted features when requirements change.
I have to push back here a little bit.
Hmm.
Mapping every single requirement to a specific test case sounds like a massive bureaucratic nightmare.
Oh, I hear that all the time.
Doesn't that immense upfront cost just slow development down to a crawl?
It feels incredibly heavy up front, yes. But think about the life cycle of our hypothetical government loan portal. 6 months into development, a new law suddenly changes the interest rate rules.
Right, laws change constantly.
Exactly. And without traceability, you're blindly guessing which test cases need to be updated. With it, you perform an instant surgical impact analysis. The upfront cost saves you from catastrophic blind spots late in the game. To summarize our analysis today, we have thoroughly explored root cause analysis, business impact, equivalence partitioning, accessibility, and traceability.